For WeAreSC.com, I'm Angel Viscarra, joined by Darrell Rideaux, following USC's 24-17 loss to Notre Dame to wrap up the 2018 season here at the LA Memorial Coliseum. And Darrell, a lot of people coming into this game, a lot of people saw a number 3 ranked Notre Dame, a Fighting Irish team, coming in here and walloping USC. Yeah. The score indicates it was much closer. Did you like the fight maybe you saw from the Trojans tonight?
Well, you talked about coming into this game. I believe USC was a 10-point underdog. And coming into this game, there was a lot of narratives about did Clay Helton lose this team? In fact, there was a sky banner periphering the Coliseum that said, "Lynn Swann, please fire Clay Helton." So there was a lot of subliminal messages all around this thing, and some were more obvious than not. But the fight that the Trojans came out with, going up 10 points, and some unsung heroes in this game, replacing a Marvell Tell III with a Chase Williams, and then bringing in a kid off the streets who I had never heard of, number 30, this kid, Jordan McMillan, came up with the critical interception to give the USC Trojans a fighting chance in the second half. I liked the fight that I saw. I thought that if there was a question about whether or not for this particular game, did Clay Helton lose the team, I think that these players played more for the seniors and wanted to send them out on a positive note. I like what I saw in terms of the fight from the Trojans, Angel.
Absolutely, Darrell, and we'll get to looking at this program from a more holistic perspective later. But let's talk about this ball game tonight, Darrell. USC gets out to a 10-0 lead. Right. Is there something maybe you like early on in the game that the Trojans are doing? Well,
like I said, I think that USC did a really good job of exploiting their matchups. Yeah. They took advantage of some size advantages and speed with Amon-Ra St. Brown at the slot position. Tyler Vaughn had 12 catches. Yeah. They look really good. Michael Pittman showed up, did his thing, but as much as I'd love to sit here and gloat about the things that I like, they only got up to a 10-point lead. In that second opportunity, when USC had to settle for 10 points, early in the second quarter, Michael Pittman had an opportunity to perhaps come down with a touchdown, but unfortunately he was unable to come in, possess the ball in bounds. They had to settle for 3, and I thought that was going to come back to rear its ugly head. USC didn't have an answer for them, Angel. I believe Notre Dame came back 24 unanswered before USC finally responded with 48 seconds. So as much as I'd love to talk about the unsung heroes, I can't help but notice that the mistakes continue to rear their ugly head. Time and time again, we talked about it, whether it's Colorado, Cal, Arizona State. When USC needed to stop, somehow a running back manages to spurt out of the backfield. And again, the same things we talked about ad nauseum, when it continues to rear its ugly head and you see the fight from the players, you can't help but turn to the sideline and look at the coaches and think, well, damn, if you give these players an opportunity to compete, we're talking about upsetting a number 3 ranked Notre Dame team who you gave a clear potential shot in playing in the playoffs. But on this field to a man, SC stacked up head among head, and there was no disparity in terms of talent on this field.
Yeah, and when we looked at how this game played out, a 10-0 lead for USC, but then 24 unanswered points, like you mentioned, Darrell. It kind of, in my opinion, looks like a microcosm of our season. Right. Where you see USC comes out early. We know the talent is there. You see these kids flying around the field, but I never really believed in that 10-0 lead, and it just feels like it was kind of all smoke and mirrors before Notre Dame came back and really punched us in the mouth. That's just my perspective. I don't know if a 24-point, burst for Notre Dame frustrates you as much.
Look, in previous recaps, I get very frustrated. But today, when I start seeing the same thing over and over again, at some point it becomes a definition of insanity. And right now I'm starting to feel like that. I keep expecting a different result, but yet I'm disappointed each time because I invest so much of my time and energy in the stands, living vicariously through the players that I adore and that I admire so much, because I know the fight that they put into this. But when you talk about SC having critical opportunities and really not understanding situational football, it really comes down to Clay Helton talking about balance, but yet there's a huge disparity in terms of run to or pass to run ratios. They bring in a young stud, number 30, Marquise Stepp. Yeah. I think he's going to be very promising moving forward. Yeah. I'd like to have seen them run him a little bit more to keep Notre Dame honest. But you live through the air, you die by the air, and in this game, unfortunately, the receivers were responsible for 2 fumbles that were momentum shifters and emotional changes. Timing of those interceptions, while it may not have hurt them on the field, it impacted USC's ability to close out drives. And that proved to be the difference, because up until the last minute of the game, USC really didn't have an answer in terms of getting in the end zone for, the 3rd game in a row, second half, unable to produce points.
All right, someone else who's had to produce a lot of answers for themselves lately, Clay Helton, after that loss tonight. He has his press conference. Darrell, anything maybe stick out to you during his press conference, or just where is he as a head coach and his job security right now, in your opinion?
Well, I've always felt like his perception of job security is a little bit more distorted than those of us who hear the echoes, the cries of the fans looking for a replacement. But let's assume that a $15 million buyout, allegedly that may be the cost to get Clay Helton out of here, is a little too steep for this university, considering the body of work that Clay Helton has. So Clay talked about making some wholesale changes perhaps on his coaching staff, looking for more discipline. He talked about technique and really self-evaluating on this recruiting campaign, identifying players of character. And I'm paraphrasing this. It almost was as though Clay has been thinking about what would this moment feel like. If he is to return, expect a lot of changes from the top down. And maybe USC uses the same type of scenario that Notre Dame used with Brian Kelly. Keep him at the head coaching position, have him change out his coordinators. If that's the case, we did see a glimpse of Tom Moore, the great offensive coordinator for years with the Indianapolis Colts. During 2003 and 4, when I was there, Tom Moore was the offensive coordinator for Peyton Manning. Could it be someone like him has a calming presence on Clay Helton's staff? We don't know yet, because Lynn Swann has yet to be able to vocalize what his plans are for the future. But if you're Clay Helton and you do return, you can't expect the expectations to remain as high as they are from us without making changes to how you go about your practice, your preparation, and what you demand out of your coaches as they develop players on the field.
Absolutely, and we'll wrap up, Darrell, by noting that this is the first time USC is bowl ineligible because of record since you were donning the Cardinal and gold back in 2000. That season, it's been nearly 20 years, folks, since USC has not had a record that qualified them for a bowl game. The Trojans finished 5-7. Darrell, how will USC fans look back on the 2018 team?
As utterly disappointment. I believe they started off, 15th ranked in the country, and they eroded, losing perhaps 5 of their last 6 games, and really just not responding the way that you expect a program of this caliber, coming off of a Rose Bowl and coming off of a Pac-12 championship, to respond absent of Sam Darnold. My biggest concern for this program is leadership and direction. Be very clear and concise about what your expectations are, so that not only can you hold players accountable, but you can also hold yourself accountable. Because if we see anything remotely close of this, I'm not certain that you're going to get the fan support. But if wholesale changes are to be made, Angel, maybe perhaps we give Clay Helton an extra or another year and see what would happen when adults are in the room at the coordinator positions and beyond. But as for what USC fans should expect of this season, it's an utter disappointment, and I don't think you can summarize it any other way.
Yeah, so a tough wrap-up to the 2018 season. That does it for us here tonight from the LA Memorial Coliseum, and that does it for your 2018 USC Trojans. They finish 5-7 this year, and like Darrell mentioned, losers of 5 of their last 6. So for the last time for 2018, I'm Angel Viscarra, he's Darrell Rideaux, and you're watching WeAreSC.